Plato's Closet in West Ashley and North Charleston are springing up cash. Just sell us your gently used warm weather styles, like tees, shorts, sandals, and more. We're paying cash on the spot for gently used spring styles for guys and girls. Support sustainable fashion. This spring, do your thing and recycle the spring-inspired clothes, shoes, and accessories that are just hanging in your closet for cash on the spot. Let your spring clothes bloom into cash at Plato's Closet. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.
Conservative talk without apology. The Regular Joe Show with Joe Gigante. Weekday evenings at 9 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app.
Portions of the following program are pre-recorded.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Boggle. I'm with Jason Spees from the Crude Life. You can get your Crude Life Sunday mornings 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270. And Dwayne Ferris joining us from BC Canine Services. Dwayne, thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you, gentlemen. Always a pleasure. And Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and everything else. Hopefully everybody had a good time.
Yeah, we did. And I hear you're actually going to be coming up fairly close to the Northern Plains and our neck of the woods, doing a little ice fishing in the near future up on Lake of the Woods, which everybody's familiar with.
Yeah, very excited. So we're going to do a little family trip, mainly a guy's trip with my younger sons. And we're going to fly out of Dallas and head up to the great Minnesota northern wildlife up there and do some ice fishing. So we're really looking forward to that.
Well, best of luck. And basically why we're having you on is we want to talk a little bit further about some of the work you do with pipeline detection with some of your dogs. Just to back up a little bit and have a little backstory, when you're talking about, because we talk about the technology side of stuff all the time, Jason and I, and there's a lot of innovation out there. But sometimes the easiest way to navigate is maybe going old school. And the best way to do that is dogs when it comes to the safety side of detecting leaks in pipelines. Walk us through what your process is and how you've integrated dogs into pipeline leak detection.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's definitely been a journey going on 6 years now. We've been doing the service providing dogs to go find leak detection. How we started out being a reactivary kind of service, meaning, hey, they have a leak. We have a specialized odorant that the dogs are specifically trained on to detect. We would do that during a hydro test, inject a certain amount to be within a certain level of parts per million. And then we would deploy the dogs, find their micro leaks, and call it good. But what we started to see out there is a need for regular, quote unquote, maintenance, right? Walking these lines, finding these leaks early on before they became catastrophic and affect livelihoods and lives and environment and farmland, et cetera, et cetera. So we eventually started doing that about 4 years ago on a proactive side. And we've seen an uptick in the services we've been able to provide doing that, because our dogs were actually picking up leaks that obviously the operators had no idea that they were there. And they were so early on, we pretty much prevented anything really turning bad, which just shows you what the dogs can do. And that's what we've been still focusing on and evolving as things change, getting these dog census down to single digits of parts per million. And the latest one we had about a couple months ago when they did the initial surface reading, came back as 200 parts per billion. So that was shocking to me. Like I said, I'm learning. These dogs are teaching me so much of what they can do. And I still think we're just right there at the surface to push this. So yeah, that's what we've been doing.
Let's compare that with a robot. We're all talking about artificial intelligence, and there are things in the oil and gas world, I guess, would be like maybe a smart pig or some kind of sensor that's supposed to be looking for a lot of these different leaks. Now, no matter what we're talking about, it's really hard to be 100%. And I believe that a lot of the smart pigs and a lot of the other things are in the 90s. I've always heard a dog actually is still higher on the scientific accuracy score than a lot of these artificial intelligence or robotics or whatever the machine is in the marketplace. Where are we at with that these days?
Right. Yeah. So we've done a couple head-to-heads with the smart pigs. One, not every operator has those. Two, they are super expensive. And three, yes, they are definitely doing their measurements from inside, right? So they're picking up the data that the smart pigs are doing, send it back to the computer, and then you actually have to have somebody who knows what they're looking for on that training technical side of seeing, corrosion or something, a hiccup inside the pipeline. When they're doing their walking or driving on the pipelines, they can go only as fast as what the machine can pick up. So literally, even the most expensive sniffing machine that we've seen deployed by an operator, that's running them about $80,000. And they actually have to be right above the ground surface, and they can't move. And they have to take air samples every minute. So not only is it time consuming, but very expensive, as opposed when these dogs are out walking the pipelines, we're averaging anywhere 3 to 4.5 miles per hour, and their nose are on the ground and they're able to hit it spot on. So yeah, very fast, very proficient, and let alone we don't really have to program these dogs to pick up all these different chemicals being transported by the pipelines. We do that in-house real quick, get them proficient, and move on.
We're talking about Dwayne Ferris. And Dwayne, so that was my next question. As far as, there's a constraint on time and distance that a dog can cover for looking for leaks. How does that compare with some of the smart pig technology or some of the other technologies that are out there for leak detection?
As far as the programming for the machines for what they can pick up.
Yeah. So how much pipeline can you cover in a day?
So what we advertise is about 10 miles per day, right? 10 miles per day per dog. The most that we've done is about 13 miles, but what they're getting at the same time when I'm saying we're walking a pipeline, 10 to 13 miles per dog is, we're getting the surface sniff, but we're getting the subsurface sniff as well. And we're doing that, within a day. And it just depends, right? Depends on where we are, what the temperature is outside, breaks, and we got to make sure we take care of the dogs working. So the head-to-head comparison of somebody driving an ATV, with a detector machine on it, sure, they might be able to cover a little bit faster, but they sure are not getting the early detection below surface. They're only going to be able to pick up what is already on surface and go from there.
And if you go too fast, you're not going to pick that up as accurately as well. So we're talking with Dwayne Ferris, BK Dog Services, and Jason Spees. Of course, you can catch Jason on the Crude Life Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. right here at Super Talk 1270. We'll come back with more with Dwayne. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk.
Plato's Closet in West Ashley and North Charleston are springing up cash. Just sell us your gently used warm weather styles like tees, shorts, sandals, and more. We're paying cash on the spot for gently used spring styles for guys and girls. Support sustainable fashion. This spring, do your thing and recycle the spring-inspired clothes, shoes, and accessories that are just hanging in your closet for cash on the spot. Let your spring clothes bloom into cash at Plato's Closet. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270. This is Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bachman along with Jason Spees from Crude Life Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270. We're talking with Dwayne Ferris. Jason, it's pretty fascinating if you think, because you're a dog lover, I'm a dog lover, and we understand that dogs need a purpose. They have to have a job. Each breed is specific for different jobs. And you have to make sure if you have a breed, you have that job that you can give them. Dwayne, what are some of the best breeds when it comes to doing leak detection work?
Well, that's a pretty cool question. Every the breeds that we work with, mainly your Labradors, your Shepherd mixes, your Belgian Malinois, those are the ones that are kind of what we tend to favor a bit. One is because the endurance and the wanting to get out into nature and push through some of the harshest environments that we've been into. So it doesn't really push them back or phase them too much. So that's what we look for. But even within the specific breeds, we still have to do our selections, right? We still have to evaluate the dog. It could be a Belgian Malinois, but just because it's a Malinois doesn't mean it's going to be a favorable type of dog to do this kind of mission and doing it part. So we actually have to take it a little bit further than just looking at a Labrador or a Malinois or a Dutch Shepherd or German Shepherd or something like that. Yeah.
That's why Steve does the show 5 days a week, because, you know, in the human world, he's a Steve Bakken and I'm a Jason Spiess in the different categories. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm over in the peanut gallery. Yeah. So, Dwayne, I do have a question for you about ESG, environmental, social governance. Now, I'm going to tell everybody right now, this is not a political question. This is the new normal of whether it's a DEI or it's an ESG or an XYZ, because what's happening is that a lot of companies are having to document where they're basically spending their money at the end of the day. And what I've been trying to get on my soapbox for years and years and years and tell specifically oil and gas companies is that when you hire a pipeline sniffing dog, you check so many flipping boxes on that ESG score, on that DEI score, on that XYZ score, because one, you're connecting with nature. Number two, you're giving something cool the kids like to see on social media. Number three, you're actually scientifically ahead of the game. To me, it's a lot like when you hire like maybe an archaeologist to go walk the land or something. It really connects. Dogs connect. Talk to me, you know, without getting into the ESG or political side, that public relations in addition to that actual scientific backing, if you follow my question.
Yeah. No, yeah, 100% on it. And, I mean, kudos to you, Jason. The first time I heard of ESG, obviously, it was from you and the education and everything that you push online, on the podcast, on radio shows and everything else on it. I really didn't see too much of it, you know, years in the past, but I do. I see it now. I see it as a scorecard, but hitting every checkbox that you can hit, meaning the public relations, the environmental detection. I mean, I couldn't think of any other less or non-invasive means of detecting leak, you know, with the dogs. So, and then just having the good feelings for everything else and being historic. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of mind blowing that more and more operators would want to jump on that and be part of something that's for the greater good.
You know, one of the other things, Dwayne, we're talking about Dwayne Ferris, BK Canine Services, leak detection specifically. But, you know, Dwayne, one of the other things that besides the dogs carry the same sign as Jason does, will work for food. From an operator's perspective, you think about the relationship that oil and gas industry has with veterans. And so pro-veteran and hiring veterans. And there's so many veterans out there that was the space they worked in, is with canines, with dogs, both for security, bomb sniffing, detection, different facets. That's a big space for veterans transitioning into the private sector. There's a lot of opportunity in there to connect companies which already do a great job connecting veterans to the private workforce in the oil and gas industry. That seems like it's just hand in glove.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Getting, you know, another, a good check mark they're just having these services available and having veterans that are a huge part of this industry. I have talked to, and we've had some good conversations about specifically looking at helping vets and hire vets to work dogs, look for leaks, and get programs going. So, I mean, if there's an operator out there that would be looking to, hey, we've got this funding, let's do something good for it. Man, that would be, I get goosebumps about just thinking about that. That would be awesome to really start looking at some programs specifically for operating companies and have veterans work these dogs. That's pretty cool.
When we come back, more with Dwayne Ferris. I'm Steve Locken along with Jason Spies from Crude Life. You can get your Crude Life Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270. We're talking with Dwayne Ferris of BK Canine Services, focusing on leak detection, and more with that. And Jason Spies when we come back to the break. This is Talk of the Town on a Wattage Wednesday on Super Talk 1270.
Follow us on
Plato's Closet in West Ashley and North Charleston are springing up cash. Just sell us your gently used warm weather styles like tees, shorts, sandals, and more. We're paying cash on the spot for gently used spring styles for guys and girls. Support sustainable fashion. This spring, do your thing and recycle the spring-inspired clothes, shoes, and accessories that are just hanging in your closet for cash on the spot. Let your spring clothes bloom into cash at Plato's Closet. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.
us on Facebook, Super Talk 1270.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Locken along with Jason Spies from the Crude Life. Each and every Sunday morning you can catch the Crude Life, the Weekend Review, 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270. And this is a Wattage Wednesday. We're talking with Dwayne Ferris of BK Canine Services, focusing on leak detection.
Hey, Steve, just before we jump right back to Mr. Dwayne Ferris, do you remember Brian Lash from Target Logistics?
Absolutely. I actually was contracted to do some work for Target Logistics when Brian was owner of that company.
You know, one of the interviews that we did with Brian, and he was smooth as silk, man. And he was so good at connecting different ideas. And what I mean by that is when he was trying to describe how the oil and gas kind of business operates now in terms of the workforce housing was like the military. And he even got there through the Olympics and all these different things. And so,
and he had a lot of military contracts with Target Logistics for housing military members. Yep. And, you know, the Olympics is one. Do you remember his catchphrase?
No.
Big sign over his desk. It's the food, stupid. And he was right. If you ever ate at a Target Logistics facility out in the oil patch, back in the day, it was about the food. I mean, you talk about workforce housing, and Target Logistics did it right. It was about the food. It was about the, you know, you're out working so much, so hard, that when you're off, you shouldn't have to worry about anything. Get a meal, get showered. Somebody else will get your stuff cleaned up. You know, the laundry services, everything that went into those facilities, so that when you were off, you were off. And because when you were on, you were on. And then it was about how do you mitigate windshield time? That was some of the biggest focus of Brian, but it was all about it's the food, stupid. I will always remember that sign that he had over his desk, because he was right. He meant it. It was how do you take care of your employees or folks working out in the oil patch, just like with the military, just like with the Olympians. That was the moniker of the entire company. It was about the food, about the lodging, about how do you take every other stress off of an employee, an athlete, a soldier when they're off duty. Remove it all. So when they're off, they're off.
Mm-hmm. And he was also, he was also big into the safety aspect. And
absolutely.
That's where the military part came in. And so I wanted to bring up that because there's a lot of connection with the oil and gas and military. And of course, Dwayne Ferris, BC Canine Pipe Inspections, is a veteran. And Dwayne, talk to us a little bit, not only about that military connection, but I did want to transition it because through some of the workforce housing and some of the, even I think rigs and a number of different things, you've been able to expand your business not only from the pipeline sniffing, but into narcotics detection. I don't know, are you doing firearm detection? Is that a thing? But I know dogs do that. So what other areas were you able to channel that, canine detection into that oil and gas opened the doors for us, so to speak?
Yeah, for sure. Originally we started out just doing the leak detection, but there was a need for expedient and proficient and reliable detection for the stuff that you're not supposed to have on a job site. So narcotics and firearms. We do implement those services, and we provide those services to the operators there that are looking to maybe do a little bit quicker, efficient, and safer type of searches for stuff that, not supposed to be on the job site. So we do that. I do have to comment about the on the veteran side too. Even though we show up and we do a job for, let's say, the leak detection, we do it. It's kind of like a speed date. We're out there. We've got a few days to get this job done. We build a rapport, and I've actually gained some really good friendships and relationships outside of the work. And a lot of it is with veterans that were out there on the job sites. It's amazing that relationship with veterans, no matter the time, branch of service, or or boots on the ground, even though we're there to find stuff like narcotics and firearms that you're not supposed to be, and unfortunately, it can end somebody's career at that time. The relationships still come out because they understand that we're there to provide a service. It's nothing personal. We're just trying to keep things safe as we can, so that way they can perform in a safe working environment and keep doing the job that they're doing. But I've even been reached out after the fact of saying, hey, this dog stuff, this training stuff, what is this all about? I might be looking for something. So me personally, I've always just kept an open door. So if anybody wants more information, or maybe they're looking for a career switch, or they want to start dabbling into like the canine aspect, the terminology canine is just so vast. There's so many things that you can pick and choose. And even if it doesn't turn into a professional business where that's your livelihood of doing it, but maybe it's sport detection. You want to train your dog to be a little bit more active looking for stuff. You want to work on some obedience. You would like to get in saying, hey, I just want to know, am I doing right by my dog? But I'm seeing these issues and we're not clicking, So feel free to always reach out to me, and I'll help them out as best as I can. So hopefully that clears that up for you.
Dwayne, when I'm thinking about from a career perspective or a working perspective, getting in the leak detection, and I obviously go right to military because I think, military already trained a lot of folks, do a lot of great work. But you bring up a great point about the other side of that. Let's back up a little bit and talk about just, maybe somebody doesn't have a working dog. They just have a dog. A lot of it comes back down to, what are the basic obedience? What are the basic skills that you need to have? And like I mentioned earlier is, certain breeds have certain jobs. They're just wired. They have to have a job. And you have to understand the breed that you have from a dog ownership perspective, because you have to provide, if not that specific job for them. So like say you have a working dog that is a herding dog, which they herd things, but you have to have some replacement for them, because you're going to have a bad outcome if you don't have a dog, whether it's a pet or a functioning working animal. If you don't give them that task to do, they need to be kept busy. They have to have something to do.
Right. Yeah, no, 100%. I think It doesn't matter if a professional level, family level, just basic responsible dog ownership starts with some research. Look into what this dog was specifically bred for and what to do, because that will help you on the journey of why he or she does something or doesn't do something. And then there's a plethora of information out there to help guide dog owners out there to do the right thing when it becomes to behavior issues with owning dogs. You don't have to have these high breed protection type of dogs just to do something good by these dogs out there.
All right, Dwayne. So you've got let's talk about the oil and gas and the energy and some of the industrial, if you will, when it comes to some of the services. And then after the news break, I want to talk about some of the new services you're offering out there in terms of residential training and et cetera, because you're expanding even more now. That's what happens, folks, when some people look, left, Dwayne goes right. So that's how life goes. Dwayne, what's your overall services when it comes to oil and gas and et cetera, and in industry and that sort of thing? Do we leave anything out or anything you're trying to get into, I guess, in 2024?
Right. Yeah. So obviously our forte to the industry for oil and natural gas is going to be detection. Within detection, we've got the leak detection, right? For anything and everything you guys that are being transported in there on reactionary and proactive services. Then we do the narcotics and we do firearm searches too for the workplace. And those workplaces, in the industry, everything ranges from drilling rigs to man camps to workover rigs, to office space, you name it. Those are the services that we do provide for the oil and gas industry there. And on the flip side, within just working dogs, just training dogs on it, we are starting to ramp up our dog training, our pet dog training services to individuals out there. So we just see a need, and it's a passion of mine to educate owners to start on the right footstep with dogs and help them live a more cohesive relationship-based type of lifestyle with these great animals out there. They serve a purpose, and we just need to find that purpose that's going to be good for the dog and the owners at that time. So just really a sense of promoting some really responsible ownership on there. So that's a new venture. I was actually doing some revamping on my vehicle out there. It's a driving billboard, big old Sprinter van, and it's amazing that I get a lot of thumbs up, and I get people, if I'm filling up gas, it doesn't matter if it's in Texas or another state, they pull up and they're like, "Oh, we've seen this on like social media or this and that. We didn't know if it was real." And they're like, "Oh, it's so cool." But yeah, get ready for some new advertisement type of decals on my van. That's going to promote not just the leak detection and detection service for oil and gas, but just the whole dog training aspect industry. So we're super stoked for that going into 2024.
Very encompassing, a lot to talk about, a lot of different aspects when you're talking canines, whether it's a pet, whether it's a working dog, whether it's working in the oil and gas industry, leak detection pipelines, narcotics, the law enforcement side of things, the military application, a lot to talk about. Dwayne, how do people get a hold of you?
Well, the easiest here, you can give me a holler at 817-771-0008 and simple keyword search of BC Canine Services. Find me on the interweb there, and just feel free to reach out just to shoot some problems or questions or guidance or anything else. So I really do. I try to be an open book and help people. So dogs are a passion, and it's a lifestyle for me. So just really grateful about that.
Thank you, Dwayne. Dwayne Ferris, BK Canine Services. This is Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Eichel. I'm with Jason Spees from Crude Life. Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk.
Play Plato's Closet in West Ashley and North Charleston are springing up cash. Just sell us your gently used warm weather styles like tees, shorts, sandals, and more. We're paying cash on the spot for gently used spring styles for guys and girls. Support sustainable fashion. This spring, do your thing and recycle the spring-inspired clothes, shoes, and accessories that are just hanging in your closet for cash on the spot. Let your spring clothes bloom into cash at Plato's Closet. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Michael. I'm with Jason Spees from the Crude Life on this Wattage Wednesday. And we're going to shift gears a little bit on this last segment with Dwayne Ferris from BK Canine Services. Because I want to talk about, if you're not in oil and gas, if you're not, on this Wattage Wednesday, if you're not into the energy sector or some of these other spaces, a lot of people out there have dogs. Starting from a puppy, moving on, and by the way, you can teach an old dog new tricks, but there's an approach that has to take place. For me, it always starts with basic obedience, and you need to get that part down before you can have any semblance of a rock star dog in any capacity. Dwayne, what are some of the tips or tricks of the trade, some of the information that you'd like to get out there to listeners that, maybe they're not in the service industry, maybe they just have a great pet, but they'd like to do a little work with it. Maybe they got a new puppy, but they'd like to work with that dog and make sure, for me, like I said, it starts with the basic obedience. That's where you get the foundation laid. How do you start with that basic obedience? And then we'll get into where you go from there.
Yeah, definitely. Some basic obedience is the foundational stuff, but I like to take it a little bit further, deeper on that. It starts with a really harmonious relationship with the dog. So when the dog and you are in tune and they can feel the good vibes and you're feeling it from the dogs, you're going to get a dog that wants to work. They want to do something. And when I say work, I'm not talking about like professional work. I'm just saying, hey, they want to be with the humans and hang out and just have a good old time. So when I look at the dogs, because obviously they contact me because they have an issue and it's undesirable behavior and they just don't know how to fix it, or unbeknownst to them, the behavior's gotten worse, right? Over days, weeks, sometimes years. But the beauty about it is being able to sit down and really dissect and be that detective and try to find out what that root cause or trigger, what's causing this dog to do what it is you don't want them to do. And that's kind of the art and the skill that comes in working with dog owners out there. So my suggestion to people is really do your research, find some really good qualified trainers out there, really look to see what their history is. Do they have a good relationship with their clients? Do they maintain those relationships with those clients? Because you're going to want to work with people that you get along with and you have a really good working relationship. And when you have that, then the consequences are going to be really awesome for you and your dog. So I always tell people having a dog it's not a sprint, it's a journey, and it's a lifelong journey. So if more and more people kind of understand that, just my opinion, that it's a journey, take your time, be patient, and the sky's the limit on what you can push your dog to do. So hopefully that kind of clears up some things.
Well, I have a question for you, and it has to do with the 9-to-5 job and dog owners, because that's a very difficult, controversial type of a topic. And, for me, it's pretty cut and dry. I have a dog that's, part Vizsla and enough Vizsla where she needs 40 miles a day running. And that really does change my day. I have to actually start with my dog's needs because it's a very high energy dog. And that's a daily routine for me. And so a lot of my daily decisions are based on my dog. This is obviously some self-reflection I've been having over the holidays here. But with that being said, it's a real deal. All of a sudden, we go from remote working to back at the office. So this dog that's used to, having to own her home, having the walks being done hourly, whatever the case is, there's a major change in routine. How does somebody deal with that? How do they bridge that gap? I mean, are there even employers that are open to bringing a dog to work anymore or anything? I don't know. I feel bad for the situation.
Oh, for sure. I think, during, years past, everybody was able to get the pup. And I think the epiphanies really didn't start happening until they had to go back to the office. And now they're left with this, living animal at home. And they were able to be supervised 100%, right? Around the clock and taken for walks and fed here and do this, don't do that. And it's grooving and it's moving. But now you're absent and you've left the dog to basically do what it wants to do. And in my opinion and experience, a dog's going to do what it wants to do to make itself feel better, majority of the times. And unfortunately, what a dog does to make itself feel better is usually something the owners don't want to come home to, right? Trash, furniture, clothes torn up, accidents in the house. Yeah. Right. Destructive. And I think it's just a misinterpretation of why the dog is doing it, for that piece, for the dog owners. And a huge thing on it is the education on it. There are some very easy steps to take, right? To have in preparation for when you do have to leave the dog at home for 8-10 hours. With that, seeking that kind of guidance and that advice. Most dog owners are very open-minded to take these small adjustments in there. And if they can understand and keep close to their heart to understand that it's a journey and it's not a sprint. So you've taken this dog, you might have this dog for 1 year to 2 years, and now you're back to the office and you come home to these situations and, chaos and destructive behavior by a dog. Unfortunately, that's not going to be fixed right overnight. There might be something that we can tweak and change in the daily routine up to it that will help. But that's where the patience and the persistence and consistency is going to come into with the dog owners on there. So not to mm-hmm.
I was just going to ask, what's the first 30 days look like for someone who goes to the Humane Society or whatever the shelter might be?
Right.
I'm actually not a very big, I'm not a big Humane Society fan anymore ever since they got political. I like dog shelters that stay out of politics.
Right.
But they've done a great job of branding over the last 30 years. Edit out. Okay. So if someone gets a dog, whether it be from a breeder or maybe it's from a secondhand or something like that, or they adopt one, what's the first 30 days look like? Because they might have some training that's kind of, gone wonky. But in some cases, they really don't know what they're getting from a breeder. So, that type of thing. Just give us a, kind of an overview of the first 30 days of what someone should do.
Wow. That's kind of a loaded question. Thanks, Jason. Because
Steve, we can't escape politics, can we?
Nope.
Well,
thanks a lot, Jason.
It loaded in the sense because yeah, true. Where you get your dog from, right? What's the history? What's the report card? And in my opinion, 9 times out of 10, you don't have that information when you do go, let's say, rescue a dog or adopt a dog. You may have loadable breeder, but even on backyard breeding and breeders out there, there's so much more that comes into it that really isn't divulged to the owners, right? So the first 30 days, obviously a relationship, a routine, a timeline, a lot of good reinforcement, but also setting boundaries for these dogs. Not to get too much into the weeds with it, but they are dogs and they are animals. They, if left to their own devices, they will find something to do that's going to make them feel better. And like I said earlier, it's usually going to result in some kind of destructive behavior. But with that 30 days should be a routine, some exercise, the health and welfare of the dog, the scheduling part with it, and just understanding, you have now came home with an animal in hopes of integrating it into a family environment or a relationship with the person, you've got to have a plan. And if you don't have a plan that's progressive, day to day, week to week, and month to month, you're going to set yourself up for a lot of heartache and a lot of frustration. And unfortunately, I think that's taken out on the dog. So get a dog, do the research, find a dog trainer, find a mentor, find something that you can help for guidance on doing it part. I've been doing this for about 24 years. I don't know it all. And I still reach out to my mentors and others that I view and hold high to give me advice on particular situations or behaviors I'm not sure how to do, or this dog's doing this. Because I just don't think that everybody can know everything about it, because they are just a unique living organism, here just to bring some really good feelings and emotions and work for us. So,
Dwayne, we're coming up against the break, but I want to go back to that research part that you mentioned, and I'm a dog breeder. I breed my hunting dogs, my Gordon setters, I've turned down people that have approached me about acquiring a dog.
100%, man.
Because as a breeder, I have a responsibility to make sure that it's a good fit. So I find a good home for that. First and foremost, make sure it's a good fit for the good home. But that research that goes into it, you need to know what your lifestyle is.
Yes.
If you're somebody who's extremely active, then you can have an active breed. If you're somebody who their downtime is sitting on the couch watching TV, you need to find a breed that fits that. If you're somebody that likes to go out for a walk every day after work, then there's breeds that fit that. If you work on a farm or a ranch and you want that companion or a hunting dog, or, you have to do that research and make sure that your lifestyle and what that breed is, because every breed is a little different, that lifestyle, that breed, that fits. And like I said, I've said no to prospective buyers for my dogs because I knew their lifestyle, and I do my diligence as well with a prospective buyer for my dogs, because I need to know a little background on your history. Does your lifestyle fit with what my breed of dog that I provide is? Talk a little bit about that real quick.
Yeah, well, for sure. Research is, in my opinion, the number one thing that you do prior to even getting and purchasing a dog. Look them up, see what this particular breed or breeds that you're interested in, are they going to fit into what your day-to-day job and responsibility is? Are you, by yourself? Do you have a family? Do you have a work that takes you out of town for an extended amount of times? What are you going to do with the dog when you're not there? Asking just some really good questions to where it is you're getting the dog from. If you're getting from a breeder, then 9 times out of 10, some really good quality breeders, they're going to do the vetting themselves also. So kind of a back and forth vetting process with it. But if you're going to, depending on where you get the dog from, if you're getting them from a rescue or animal shelter, really do diligence as best you can, because I think that not only is it, in hopes of protecting and giving a quality life to this animal, to this dog, but it's got to be reciprocal, right? It's got to be also to the new dog owner as well, because if you're not able to do it, then 9 times out of 10 it's going to be taken out onto the dog, and then, hey, not sure what's going to happen with that. Dog gets owned or abandoned or rehomed, and you just see a lot of that going around with it. And just do a really honest self-assessment and gut check. If this is the right time, do you have the investment as far as energy and time to do this and try to do right by the dog and yourself? Because if not, it's just going to have conflict. And depending even the type of dog you do get, sure, a breed might be a hunting dog. It might be a dog that uses a vocal. They're more vocal than other dogs. There are training methodologies that can be introduced and done with dogs to make them not as active and kind of chill and mellow. But at the same time, you got to really ask if that's going to be the right training methodology on, let's say, Belgian Malinois, right? Or a German short hair pointer or something, right? So those dogs were bred for a purpose. And if you're going to try to, suppress some of the natural behavior, that's when you're going to run into some conflict. So does that help? Yeah.
Absolutely. Dwayne, thank you very much for some time. Once again, if somebody wants to get a hold of you or has any questions, whether it's for the services provided or just some dog training tips and tricks, how do they get a hold of BKK9 Services?
Yeah, you can holler us on the internet at BC Canine Services, Dwayne Ferris. Our phone number is at 817-771-0008, and we're located here in North Texas.
Dwayne Ferris, thanks for joining us today. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bachel with Jason Speech. You can get Jason at the Crude Light each and every Sunday morning right here on Super Talk 1270.
Talk of the town. Local, interesting. A lot of things going on with flood insurance in the Bismarck Mandan area and some things you need to know concerning the Missouri River and some changes that have taken place. And, well, are you even going to be able to get flood insurance? Community events. Home Builders Association Parade of Homes going on. Started yesterday. We'll get the update on that as well this weekend on Super Talk 1270. Community organizations. I'm Steve Bakken along with Sarah Kelsch from the Bismarck Cancer Center. I want to talk about the mission and where the mission has gone for those that are served that are dealing with the cancer fight. What's going on in our community? That's Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270. If you missed the show, check out the podcast on demand on the Super Talk 1270 mobile app.
Talk of the Town thanks our sponsors: Big Boy, Dakota Pharmacy, Benchmark Mortgage, Trademark Realty, Silver Ranch, Peak Automotive and Service, and Runnings. Talk of the Town with Steve Bakken, Monday through Friday, 9 to 11 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app.
KLXX AM, Mandan, Bismarck, a Town Square media station, broadcasting from the View Community Credit Union studio.
It's all about the pets. Steve Dale's Pet World. Saturday afternoon at 4 on Super Talk 1270.
Portions of the following program are pre-recorded.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken along with Jason Speece from the Crude Life. You can catch Crude Life Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270. Joining us on the program, Jeff Kummer with, formerly Mineral Tracker. Remember when that popped up in North Dakota? A great asset, great tool for both landowners and the industry. But now with Meriden Carbon, Jeff, thanks for coming on the program.
Hey guys, really great to be here. Appreciate the opportunity.
So I want to back up a little bit and just for the North Dakota reference, kind of talk a little bit about Mineral Tracker and the impetus behind that, because that's something that just there was a need at the time, a big need, and you guys went out and got that established and filled a void that really existed for a long time between companies and landowners and mineral right owners and connected a lot of dots.
That's right. Mineral Tracker was just one of those projects that just made sense. I had seen success as a petroleum engineer working in the oil and gas industry for about a decade prior to launching Mineral Tracker with a good friend of mine, also a petroleum engineer, Joel Brown, in 2017 approximately. And the thesis behind Mineral Tracker was quite simple. It was, how do we build a tool that any landowner in North Dakota or wherever they might be can log in and understand a couple of things. One, were they getting paid correctly? And two, what was their asset worth? So we built decline curves for the entire basin and launched this tool that we thought a few people might benefit from, and turns out a lot of people desired that tool, and it got successful enough that a regional bank decided that it was more valuable to them than it was to us, and we sold that company right when COVID was rearing its ugly head, and 1920.
Well, and the reason I want to go down this road, Jeff, is because the financial ramifications for Mineral Tracker were huge. Because from a landowner's perspective, from a mineral right perspective, the question was always out there: are the dividends right? Am I getting paid the right royalties? Is everything working out the way it is? But the other side, on the front side, is those minerals are worth a lot of money, both from an investment perspective and a leverage perspective. So I understand why the banking side of things got involved with Mineral Tracker, because the ability, if you're a farmer or a rancher, producer, to be able to leverage that future holdings to work for you pays huge dividends in the ag side of things. So it was a really good fit.
I mean, it's an economic engine for North Dakota, right? And for so many places across the country. I tell you what, Steve, the biggest thing for myself and for Joel in launching Mineral Tracker, and it's also the impetus for this carbon business that I found myself in here more recently, is that the landowners deserve to be informed. The landowners deserve to be educated on their asset. Ultimately, the landowners deserve to have a seat at the table. And this is nothing against the oil and gas industry. The oil and gas industry, by and large, does an exceptional job when it comes to safety, when it comes to developing properties the right way. We just wanted to take that a step further with Mineral Tracker and say, hey, we're going to sit on the same side of the table as you and kind of go arm in arm to help you understand your asset that, in many cases was generating incredible wealth and will generate incredible wealth for their family for generations to come. And so that's really, I think, the main part of the story and why we developed Mineral Tracker, is to give landowners more of a voice.
I think one of the, threads of the story before we get into the carbon business, Mandan Carbon that you're launching now and that you're currently doing in business with Mineral Tracker. I've been pretty critical on the state of North Dakota in the past couple years, but when I look at Mineral Tracker, I think that's an example of one where the state invested in a company that was an economic engine, and it did good for the landowners, and it did good for the industry. And you and Joel did very well in that as well. It launched you into new economic opportunities. How involved was the state in the process? At what point did you guys start working with the state on this? Because I know that they were involved a little bit.
Well, we like to lay claim that we were the first tech startup based in Watford City, North Dakota. So
there you go. There you go.
Yeah,
put that on the tagline.
And ultimately, that's what it was. It was a grassroots startup with an idea from a napkin that translated into a web application. Is still going today under the banner of First International Bank. And Joel is still there working on the project. The state really got involved on this when we started talking with them about valuing all of the state's mineral interests, which, as you all know and the viewers know, is quite a large asset for the state of North Dakota. It generates a lot of revenue. And they asked us to come in and tell them what it was worth. And so we've been running, now Joel has been running kind of every couple of years, major project to determine the value of that asset so that North Dakota can plan. That's where, to best of my knowledge, where the state's been most involved in that project. And very helpful, by the way. And I think it's a mutually beneficial relationship.
How long did it take to, get things rolling? You said it started on a napkin. Before we go to break and get into the carbon business, which a lot of people are starting carbon businesses on napkins right now. You and I talked a little bit before we got on the air, and we called it the gold rush or the next .com, bubble type boom. And, we don't know if it's going to be a gold rush that'll last 100 years or a .com boom that'll last, 3-4 years and then the bubble bursts. But we both know the carbon industry is emerging and emerging fast. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But how quickly did you see back when you guys started that you knew, okay, this napkin is the real deal?
Yeah, great question. I think that I've been fortunate to be involved in several startups, and the common theme from those, almost all of those ventures, is that you don't usually end up where you think you're going to end up.
Right.
And so what started as a business plan from Joel and I saying, hey, we're two smart petroleum engineers that have worked in the industry. Let's set up a Main Street business with an open door and just answer people's questions and try to be helpful to them. Then translated into a web app, which we weren't planning on. And that really became the anchor of the business of Mineral Tracker. That process was, I think, a relatively short cycle time. You iterate on that, and that's 12 to 18 months. We were up and running and had a lot of customers and planned to, continue the business for a long time. And, as with other successful startups, the sign of a successful venture is when somebody else thinks it's more valuable than you do, and you move on. And so, it was actually a fairly short cycle. But in North Dakota, there's so much money being generated and there's so much money being spent, and this might transition into the carbon business, is that these startup ventures follow the money. Where is the money being spent? Where is the money being generated? The billions and billions of dollars that have been spent in North Dakota and the billions of dollars that have been created for the landowners both in North Dakota and wherever they might live is it's incredible. And I think that when we look back 10 years from now on where we're at today in this carbon business, I think we're going to see that we kind of haven't seen anything yet. There's a lot of money going into this space. And it's going to be exciting to see how it all evolves. But, as an entrepreneur, you're just trying to provide solutions in an area that folks are putting a lot of money and a lot of investment into it. And that's super exciting.
We're talking with Jeff Kummer, formerly of Mineral Tracker, and now with Mandan Carbon. We'll get into the carbon side when we come back. I'm Steve Bike along with Jason Spies from the Crude Life. You can catch Crude Life Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk.
Plato's Closet in West Ashley and North Charleston are springing up cash. Just sell us your gently used warm weather styles like tees, shorts, sandals, and more. We're paying cash on the spot for gently used spring styles for guys and girls. Support sustainable fashion. This spring, do your thing and recycle the spring-inspired clothes, shoes, and accessories that are just hanging in your closet for cash on the spot. Let your spring clothes bloom into cash at Plato's Closet. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bike along with Jason Spies from the Crude Life. You can catch Crude Life Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270. And we're talking with Jeff Kummer, Mandan Carbon. And Jeff, let's talk a little bit about the carbon side of things. You've been involved with many startups, getting things off the ground. Explain to listeners the role that Mandan Carbon has taken with everything that's going on in the carbon world. You're hearing carbon, big onus put on carbon right now. Where does Mandan fit into that footprint?
Sure. The thesis for Mandan Carbon is very simple, is that the world is short carbon storage. If the world wants to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide, so the first thing to know for your listeners is that when you hear carbon, that means carbon dioxide. Okay, CO2, that thing that all plants live off of, that thing that we exhale, that thing that is produced when fossil fuels are combusted. Carbon dioxide. So when you hear carbon, it means carbon dioxide. And our thesis with Mandan Carbon is that the world is short carbon storage. What does that mean? That means that in order to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which has gone up in the last few hundred years, the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has gone up. That's true. If you want to reduce that amount and therefore reduce the effects of the greenhouse gas effect that contributing to global warming, and I'm not here to debate that, if you want to reduce the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, you have to put it somewhere. You can't burn it. You can't, put it in a box and ship it offshore. You can't shoot it into outer space. You have to put it somewhere. The only place to safely, permanently store carbon dioxide is deep underground in rocks, in rock formations. And our thesis is that the world is short carbon storage. And that comes from the fact that the size of the perceived problem of carbon dioxide emissions is measured in the tens of billions of tons of CO2 per year, tens of billions of tons going into the atmosphere from the burning of fossil fuels, whether it's your car, power plants, what have you, that is contributing to global warming, as some experts say. And if you want to not only reduce that, which means you're starting to capture CO2 from the source of the emission, think coal-fired power plants, think cement plants, anywhere CO2 is coming off of the smokestack, you can capture that. That's a technology that is, somewhat nascent at scale, but it exists. And you can capture that and you can put it deep underground, or you're actually physically removing carbon dioxide that's already in the atmosphere through projects that some may have heard of called direct air capture projects, where they're physically eliminating CO2 from the atmosphere. However you're going to capture that carbon dioxide and reduce the amount that's in the atmosphere, you have to put it somewhere. And you have to put it deep underground. And the size of the asset that you need to make a meaningful impact on a tens of billions of tons of CO2 per year problem is massive. We're developing a project in southeast Wyoming, arm in arm with landowners, which I hope to talk about here as well. It's something that I'm very passionate about, on 100,000 acres of land that we think may be able to sequester or hold 1 billion to 2 billion tons of CO2. And it may be the largest carbon storage asset onshore in the United States. So you kind of put those numbers together. The size of the problem is 30, 40 billion tons per year. And we have in development perhaps one of the largest storage assets in the country that can do 1 or 2 billion tons per year. Therefore, kind of again, our thesis is that the world is short carbon storage.
I'm not sure if you can hear the trains in the background in my remote studio here, but I'm standing next to a empty, I've counted 75 cars, coal cars that are empty. They're going to Wyoming right now to pick up some coal and send it out across the nation here. Now, in North Dakota, we've got a couple different kinds of carbon. We've got ethanol carbon. We've got coal carbon, for example. In Wyoming, what type of project are you working on? What's the origin of the carbon, and how is it going to be transported? And I imagine it'll just be pumped underground, correct?
That's correct. Yep.
As far as the terminus goes, it'll just be where is it going to be pumped underground, by the way?
About 2 miles underground into a sandstone formation that contains today saline water or salty water.
And how does that get transported? Is that through pipeline or on site? Like the Richardson Red Trail ethanol plant does it right on site. We have a Jared Walker coming in from Illinois to talk about on-site ethanol carbon storage at the Carbon Conference. But then there's the Summit Carbon Solutions pipeline as well. And then, of course, you've got lignite energy, and you've got all these different types of transportation when it comes to carbon. How is it in Wyoming? And just kind of go over that a little bit, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. The first thing to understand is that you can't drill a well anywhere in the United States and put CO2 into the ground. Why? Because there's not a porous and permeable formation underfoot. The primary reason that CO2 is being transported from the Corn Belt to places like North Dakota and Illinois and potentially even Wyoming via the Trailblazer conversion is because the CO2 has to go to an area that has suitable geology. So in an ideal situation like Red Trail, they sit atop the Williston Basin. And so they sit atop a geologic situation that is conducive to injecting fluid into the ground the same way it's conducive to producing fluid out of the ground. And so, kind of the simple fact for the viewers to understand is that the reason that you see CO2 being transported or being injected into the places that it is because the geology works. So in the state of Wyoming and Colorado and Illinois, North Dakota, Montana, all of those places that we know of historic oil and gas production, the reason there's historic oil and gas production is because they sit in a place that's geologically conducive to producing oil and gas. It exists and the geology is underfoot. So the ideal situation, like at Red Trail, is that they're sitting atop that. They don't have to transport it. That's the perfect scenario. They're capturing the CO2 from the ethanol production. They're putting it in the ground on site. It's the least capitally intensive way to go about doing this. In the state of Wyoming produces a lot of power. Produces a lot of power from coal-fired power plants, from natural gas-fired power plants. And our business model is to be able to transport that CO2 from those power plants to our asset in southeast Wyoming. Why is it in southeast Wyoming? Well, there's a number of reasons. But again, you have to kind of consider the fact that you can't just plop a well anywhere. It has to be in the right place, which, ultimately ties back to our thesis that we're short carbon storage, because it's a unique situation where you can unitize 100,000 acres of land, consolidate that doesn't include the federal government, in our case, which is, in my opinion, a good thing. It doesn't have a lot of legacy oil and gas wellbores on the asset that could allow CO2 to escape from the formation that you're pumping it into. And last thing I would note is that the other reason that CO2 is pointed towards North Dakota and Wyoming is because they are two states that have primacy over Class 6 underground injection, which means that the state, an agency of the state, approves those permits versus those permits going through the gauntlet at the EPA.
We're talking with Jeff Comer with Mandan Carbon. I'm Steve Bach along with Jason Spees from the Crude Life. You can catch Crude Life Sunday mornings 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270.
Plato's Closet in West Ashley and North Charleston are springing up cash. Just sell us your gently used warm weather styles like tees, shorts, sandals, and more. We're paying cash on the spot for gently used spring styles for guys and girls. Support sustainable fashion. This spring, do your thing and recycle the spring-inspired clothes, shoes, and accessories that are just hanging in your closet for cash on the spot. Let your spring clothes bloom into cash at Plato's Closet. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.
Back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bach along with Jason Spees from the Crude Life. You can catch Jason Sunday mornings right here on Super Talk 1270 with the Crude Life, the Week in Review. And joining us in the program, Sarah Stogner, the unicorn lawyer from Texas. And Sarah, we were kind of looking for an update because it's a big deal. What's going on with a no-fly zone because of a leak that has been taking place down in West Texas.
Yeah, so no-fly zone is still in effect. what happened is there have been multiple hundreds, actually, of surface broaches of water and gas outside of a wellbore that are just flowing to surface. And the Railroad Commission has hired a contractor to try to rig up on some of the wells nearby. But this is the first time that we're aware of fluids making their way to surface not via a wellbore in the state of Texas.
So, Sarah, hang on here. I'm trying to make sure my mic is on. State of Texas, Railroad Commission. We're talking right outside of Midland, Odessa area. You're in the heart of the Permian. What exactly is wrong? I mean, what's happening here? Is it a faulty casing? Is it a bad well? Is it just that there's earthquakes making the water come up? I mean, what exactly is the problem?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know exactly. Probably all of those things.
Oh, really?
Have something to do with it.
Okay.
So, we have over 19 million barrels of produced water are injected into the ground every day. And in Oklahoma, they had earthquakes and they stopped injecting. In Louisiana and New Mexico, they've started lowering their injection volumes because they're having problems. And Texas just keeps sticking its head in the sand and keeps accepting water from everywhere. And it's running out of places to go. And unfortunately, we've had earthquakes in Texas. And so the Railroad Commission shuts in the deep injection, which they think causes the earthquakes. Well, then they transfer it more shallow. And when you start injecting it more shallow, there's a lot of other wellbores that come into contact. And if these wellbores haven't been properly maintained, you've got wells that haven't been properly plugged. They act as conduits, and it becomes a subsurface matrix of crossflow. And we have natural faulting out here. We have lots of natural salt formations and shallow salt domes. And the pressure finds a way. And so in January of 2022, we had that big geyser that shot up that made national news that looked like Old Faithful. There was a no-fly zone implemented against us then. And it took them about a year to shut off that flow at surface. Well, this newest breakout is about half a mile to the east of that January 2022 blowout. And we don't see any wellbores. Where it was flowing to surface was not through a wellbore. So I don't know if it's, a natural fault where it's made its way through that natural faulting, if it's just unnatural in wellbores and then it hits somewhere in a shallow water zone and then migrates. You don't know. But we do know that we are massively over injecting produced water in the region, and that we're having widespread problems of flow to surface in places where there's no natural mechanism to bring flow to surface, if that makes sense.
You mentioned the both on the hydrology and the geologic side of things with the earthquakes, that not doing an injection well correctly can cause. And I remember back probably about 6-7 years ago, a company in Colorado. In Colorado, they monitor earthquakes very closely because of the Rockies. And company had actually was playing with different injection rates and flow rates, and they figured out how they could cause earthquakes. And the Geologic Survey in Colorado was like, can you replicate that, once they figured out who it was? Because now they wanted to start studying both that aspect of it, but also the geology side of an earthquake. So there was a case where they worked very closely together. But when you're looking at the potential, there's a lot of different factors that go into doing an injection well correctly. Is it the sense that maybe something got a little out of parameters? Is it an oversaturation? What are you hearing on the ground? Because this is a big deal. And then implementing a no-fly zone because of it on top of that, really a big deal, and people need to pay attention to that. So what's the sense you're getting from the cause? Is it a factor, kind of a multiplier, or what?
Yeah, I mean, what I'm hearing from people is that we're nearby. They are over-injecting. People, the Railroad Commission will approve an injection permit that it shouldn't approve, that the science behind it says shouldn't be approved, right? Like if you can't, there's something called a fracture gradient, and that means just like when we frack a well, right? When you inject faster and harder, it will fracture the rock. And obviously you never want to fracture in an injection well, but that it happens. And the Railroad Commission is knowingly letting people over inject into different zones where they may not have permission to be. And the Railroad Commission's allowing that. And then I think the bigger problem is that there's no enforcement of requiring them to actually comply with their permit. So they're issuing permits that shouldn't be issued, and then they're going beyond the allowables in their permits without repercussion. And when you have both of those things, it is a recipe for disaster, and that's what we're seeing.
You mentioned, or I thought I heard something about the no-fly zone. Do you have an update on the no-fly zone?
It's still in place. As of, I haven't looked in a couple of days. I think it was set to expire on January 8th. They are still out there working on a well. They had to rig down and move it the other day. It looked like it was listing, and we think that the earth was subsiding, so they had to bring in more caliche to try to get more stability. They moved all the equipment off, and they're rigged back up. But I think they're going to be out there for months. So I suspect they're going to try to continue to get it extended. And at some point, I'm going to have to make a decision on whether or not it's worth me risking my pilot's license to go and violate it, because I think that it was not properly obtained. So I've actually requested, I've submitted a public records request to the Railroad Commission and to the FAA for all communications regarding the request, because originally the Railroad Commission told the press that they had requested it because of gas leaking and that it was a danger. And then when pressed, they said, oh, no, there's no evidence of anything toxic. So they can't have it both ways. They can't say that it's because of toxic gas, but then there's no gas.
Steve, I know we're up against the break here, and we'll just make this go into overtime a little bit. Maybe this will only be available on the podcast, but I did want to ask you, do you believe that this no-fly zone is directed at you? Like, are you the reason for it?
Yes, I am 100% the reason for it. No one else that I know of has any reason to be flying or doing anything over there. And as soon as I started making the pictures publicly available is when they went and got it.
So you were doing some grassroots journalism reporting, and also some due diligence for what? Lawsuits and potential lawsuits. And they said, nope, get out of there.
Yep.
Wow.
Okay.
So much for transparency, huh, Jason?
That's interesting, because now we're talking about landowner rights.
Yeah.
How high do those landowner rights go until you get into a specific space where governing bodies can overrule landowners and et cetera type of a thing. So I specifically wanted to prod that a little bit for some future conversation down the road. Yeah. Definitely going to be some future conversations. Jason Spiess, of course, the Crude Life Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. right here on Super Talk 1270. We're talking with Sarah Stogner, the Unicorn Lawyer. When we come back, our private public picks coming up next on Super Talk 1270.
Hey guys, time to get in on the action for the biggest moments in basketball with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projections, place your entry, and win up to 100 times your money. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit of up to $100. Just download the Prize Picks app and use the code GET100. That's code GET100 on Prize Picks for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy.
1270.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bike along with Jason Spees from the Crude Life. You can catch the Crude Life Week in Review right here on Super Talk 1270 Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. And Sarah Stogner, the unicorn lawyer from down in the Permian, down in Texas. Story we're following, of course, with the no-fly zone and the things associated with that. But right now, it is time for our football picks, our private public picks, as the NFL season is winding down. It is coming to a close, and pretty close matchup between Sarah and Jason and myself. With Sarah just a couple games behind. Jason, you're a game out in front of me. And, Sarah, some of those crazy picks Jason makes, they've been paying dividends lately. So, I'm not going to fault him for some of those, but, apparently picking by the prettiest helmet, does pay some dividends. That's all I'm going to say.
Never failed me. Still works. Absolutely. That's, what? Are you telling me that Cardinal's going to beat a Bear? Ain't going to happen.
But a Cardinal did beat an Eagle last week. So there we go. Tell you what, let's get into the picks because it's going to be an interesting week because the NFL season going right down to the wire. First game up, Seattle at Arizona. And Arizona is just kind of playing the string out, but like I said, they beat the Eagles last week. Maybe a little bit of a spoiler role for them.
Yeah, I think I'm going to pick Arizona at home this week.
Wow. Okay, and I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Seattle on this one because they've got the prettiest helmets. No, actually, they're playing for a playoff spot, so I'm gonna go with Seattle on this one.
I'll agree with you, Steve, that I think Seattle is going to pull it off on this one. They're going to make it interesting.
Okay, next game up, Pittsburgh at Baltimore. Baltimore really has nothing to play for because they've solidified their space, but it's a Harbaugh. And Harbaughs always think they have something to prove. Sarah, where are you going?
Oh, yeah. I think Baltimore wins.
I'm going to go with Baltimore, and it is not going to be a win. I think you might see some of their players for a half, maybe, as they're trying to keep people healthy, and it's still going to be a blowout. I'm going Baltimore.
You're going to see Lamar Jackson sit. You're going to see Zay Flowers sit. But you're probably not going to see too many people on defense sit. And therefore, the Ravens will beat the Pittsburgh Steelers, even though the Steelers are playing for the playoffs.
All right, next game up, Tampa Bay at Carolina. And a lot of people jumped on the Tampa Bay bandwagon and the Baker Mayfield bandwagon. And last week, kind of came back to earth really quickly. Yeah, really quickly they came back to earth. They fell hard. So Tampa Bay at Carolina.
I think if is he still supposed to be back? I think it's Tampa Bay.
I got to go with Tampa Bay as well. I think last week was kind of an off week, and Baker Mayfield got probably caught up in the limelight about how good he was, and that's okay. Hey, man, Oklahoma boy, that's what happens.
All right, I'm going Tampa Bay also on that one. Next one up, Cleveland at Cincinnati. Battle of the backup quarterbacks.
Yeah, Cincinnati.
You're going Cincinnati. Well, I'm going to go. You're going to go Cleveland, and so you're a Joe Flacco believer now.
The dude he fell asleep during the game, man. I mean, he's so old he fell asleep during the game. I love it. He threw for 300 yards and nodded off like he was watching a movie at 10 o'clock at night.
Well, I'm going to go with Captain Geritol and Cleveland on this one.
Did you see that, by the way,
I know.
when he nodded off?
Well, he's a little older now. You nod off too, Jason. I know you do.
I know.
Next game up, Minnesota at Detroit. And after New Year's Eve debacle for the Vikings, I don't even know what they're playing for anymore. But I don't know, with the division locked up, if Detroit's going to be playing for a lot either. I know they're going to be a little testy after that screwed up call against the Cowboys that they probably should have won that game. So, Sarah, Minnesota or the Lions?
Lions.
Jason?
I got to go with the Lions. Minnesota is going to be playing to see who makes the team next year. They're not even concerned with winning the game. They're concerned with who the heck are we going to keep next year. You might see all three quarterbacks go. Actually, no, they're done with that one dude, the rocket scientist.
Yeah, I don't think they have any quarterbacks, but good argument for Kirk Cousins coming back. I'm going to go with Detroit because, like I said, they're a little angry and they're going to have something to prove. Next one up, Chicago at Green Bay. Green Bay playing for the playoffs. Chicago kind of playing out to see if they're going to sign their quarterback. If Fields going to be back there for next year. Sarah, Chicago at Green Bay.
Green Bay.
Jason?
Chicago.
You're going Chicago? Wow. I'm going to go.
Ever since they traded for Montez Sweat, that has totally changed the whole team. And I don't even know if they've lost. And if they have, it's not been by much. I've been a Washington Redskins, now Commanders fan, my whole life. And then when Daniel Snyder bought the team, I didn't like Daniel Snyder. So it was really hard to be that. And then, of course, the Redskins, it's hard to, I had a Redskins jacket and I'd get yelled at by people in public. So I just kind of follow them, a little bit.
Hold on to that jacket, though, because it might be the Redskins, the Commanders, and back to the Redskins if some Native American lawsuits come to fruition. But I'm going to go Green Bay on this one. Houston.
So anyway, my point is I'm going with the Bears.
Yeah. Houston at Indianapolis.
Oh, I got a good one for this.
Sarah, Houston. Okay, I'm a believer in Minshew mania, but good Lord, Stroud's good, and he's the best rookie quarterback I've seen in a long time because he's matured. I'm going to go Houston on this one.
And what's the matchup again?
Houston at Indianapolis.
It's going to end in a tie. It's going to end in a tie. Because that's the only way the Buffalo Bills cannot make the playoffs. If Pittsburgh wins, Jacksonville wins. Who's playing the Baltimore Ravens? And whoever's playing the Ravens, if they win, like the only game that actually is kind of wonky is that the Houston Texans and the Indianapolis Colts have to tie.
All right, Jason.
So I'm rooting for it.
Jason's going for the tie. Kansas City at the L.A. Chargers.
Oof. Chargers.
Jason?
Chiefs.
I'm going to go KC, even though they're just not clicking, but I'm going to go KC on that one. Denver at the Las Vegas Raiders.
Raiders.
Jason?
What about the Raiders?
Raiders.
Yep.
I'm going to go Denver on this one. I got a hunch. Stidham's playing better. Buffalo at Miami.
Miami.
Jason?
Buffalo.
I'm going to go Miami on this one. I don't think Buffalo's... I was going to say got the horses, but it'd be more like have the Buffalo, right? New York Jets at the New England Patriots. This could wind up in a 2-2 tie as well. Safety by both defenses, and that's about all we got going here. Sarah?
My bad snaps.
New England for Sarah. Jason?
I'm going to go with the Jets.
And I'm going to take the Jets on this one as well. Atlanta at New Orleans. Sarah, I already put you down for New Orleans. Or did you lose faith?
No, I'm never picking the Dirty Birds. Gross.
Jason?
Well, let's see. We got New Orleans against Atlanta, which will be Justin Fields' new home next year. So I'm going to go with the Saints.
All right. New Orleans across the board. Philadelphia Eagles at the New York Giants.
Eagles.
I'm going to go Eagles. They're a little PO'd.
They were last week, too.
Yeah.
They lost. But the Giants are the Giants. So I'm going to, although the Giants have been playing well, but I'm still going to pick the Philadelphia Eagles.
Next up, the LA Rams at the San Francisco 49ers. This does have playoff implications.
49ers.
Jason?
I'm going to go with the Rams.
I would love to go to see the Rams because if they get in, nobody wants to play them. But I'm going to go 49ers on this one. Jacksonville at Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Ooh. Jason?
Jacksonville.
I'm going to go Jacksonville as well on this one. And the final game for the regular season, Dallas at Washington.
Dallas.
You think they can win on the road?
I think they can.
Wow, okay. Jason?
Last year, Sam Howell got the start against Dallas on the last game of the year and tore him up. And that's why he's your current starting quarterback. Although he did get benched last week, and then Jacoby Brissett got hurt before the game started. So Sam Howell ended up starting, although he's benched again this week. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys.
I'm going to go Dallas, and as much as I don't like Dallas. But all right, those are our private public picks right here on Super Talk 1270.
KLXX AM, Mandan, Bismarck, a Town Square media station, broadcasting from the View Community Credit Union Studio.
When you make decisions for your company, you look for the no-brainers. If you have a lot of mailing to do, Stamps.com is the ultimate no-brainer. Use the Stamps.com mobile app to mail everything you need to keep your business running with up to 89% off USPS and UPS. Make the same no-brainer decision as over 1 million other businesses with Stamps.com. Use code PROGRAM for a special offer. That's Stamps.com, code PROGRAM.